You deserved everything you got. This is a union city.
That is a Philadelphia tradition.
Seize the means of podcasting.
Oh God, the boss has crushed us.
Let me tell you one thing else.
In oldie-timey times,
Who said it? Kanye West or Thomas
we
Paine?
will not raw dog reality for that one.
The pleasure of the flesh is in solidarity.
The Scab Buster.
It's gonna be wholly unprofessional.
Eight together strong. Let that be your mantra.
Hello and welcome to the Labor John podcast, where we adopt, adapt, improve, and podcast about the working class history of Philadelphia and the surrounding world. My name is Young Sam James. I'm a co-host, and my co-host of the co-host is...
I'm Gabe Christie.
And it's a pleasure to meet you, Gabe. We've never met before. This is the first time. You look like a fine young gentleman. What are we going to be talking about today, Gabe?
Well, we're going to be talking about racism and French people.
Okay, so this is a Labor John podcast.
As usual.
With a special guest appearance by the French.
Yes. So racism is bad, but it keeps showing up.
Shouldn't we leave that to the listeners to decide, Gabe?
That's fair. We don't want to come off as biased against racism. But specifically, we're going to be talking about the desegregation of Girard College.
All right. Okay.
To dive into this, first we need to understand who Stephen Girard was.
Mm.
So Stephen Girard was born in Bordeaux, France in 1750.
Okay.
He was the eldest of 9 children,
All right.
born to Pierre and Anne Girard. At some point, he lost vision, or he lost sight in his right eye. It's unclear if he was born without sight in his right eye or if he lost it
Okay.
at a young age.
Either way, that sucks.
Yeah. And he also received, he got ridiculed for it constantly.
Nice.
As a youth. Yeah, it's great. I'm sure even for, middling people like the Girards, life in France in the 1750s was fantastic. But yeah, so he got tormented endlessly as a young boy. And
That's probably not good for the rest of the story.
nope. So France also didn't have any public education at this point. So he had a smattering of different schooling from his parents and random tutors when his parents could afford it.
Okay.
Then at the age of 14, he signed on to a merchant ship, basically to go out and live his life as a sailor.
All right. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what you do. I mean, it's like you either join the circus or you get on a freighter, you know?
Yeah. I will say, the merchant service at this point was it's unclear as to whether or not he was going in as just a random sailor or if he had some enough training that he was going in almost as a merchant version of a midshipman, which would be a junior or an officer trainee.
We're following you completely, Gabe.
Yeah. Anyway, by 1773, he was a captain.
Hey, all right.
So
We all know what that is.
yeah. So he was in command of a ship and started trading between New York, New Orleans, and Port-au-Prince.
Okay.
So he was in the New World now, and mostly in the French New World, but then also trading in New York because that's where the money was.
I see.
And also anyone that knows their geographical history will know that trading in Port-au-Prince basically meant you were going down and purchasing sugar from all of the sugar plantations,
Which is
Haiti.
fine.
Yeah.
Haiti has a great history, Gabe.
Yes. They had a really cool history at the end of the 18th century, early 19th century, and then all of the people that they rebelled against didn't like that. And we're seeing the long running consequences of that ever since. Now, okay, so he was in New York in 1776 when the revolution, or when the American Revolution kicked off, and specifically when the British occupied New York. So he fled the British blockade down he sailed out of New York and then sailed up the Delaware to Philly. I think I lost your audio.
Hey,
there we go.
Welcome back. I forgot to push the button.
Oh, that works.
I could have just been ignoring your ass, Gabe.
Ah.
It's the end of the episode for me.
So
the listeners didn't know you can do that. You can actually turn us off.
Oh, that's true. I mean, don't tell them that.
No shit.
We'll never get any more listens.
Oh no. 10,000 listens were passed. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
That's a lot. We didn't expect that.
I know.
So we appreciate that. If you're listening to this, we thank you.
You're the ones making all this possible.
You can turn us off, but you turn us on, baby.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I don't know, Gabe. Keep going, please.
Sailed up to the Delaware. He was in command of a schooner named Jean Beb.
Okay.
And came to Philadelphia in June of 76. I should also say, I skimmed 2 biographies of him. He's not the main focus of this episode. I skimmed 2 biographies of him. One was like the official biography from Girard College. The other one was written by a graduate of Girard College from 1939. That was the much more interesting one.
Uh-huh.
We'll get into it, and I'll explain why in a little bit.
The non-sanctioned version usually is the more interesting one.
Yeah. So he got wrapped up into revolutionary politics, but never like actually took up arms or did anything. He was just like, I'll sell things to the Revolutionary Army.
Okay.
And that was kind of it.
All right.
And then he married a lady named Mary Lum, continued his business endeavor, and ended up setting up a store in Mount Holly, New Jersey. Then he started smuggling smuggling goods through the British blockade, which did, like, admittedly take a lot of risk.
Yeah, I thought he was going to turn into a sympathizer, but
no,
I'm okay with this route.
Well, he's also very French, so he couldn't possibly side with the English in this.
I mean, that's true.
He was apparently a very good smuggler, and made a crap ton of money.
Okay.
So came out of the revolution like filthy stinking rich.
I love that. Don't you just love that, Gabe?
Yeah. And then he just kept getting wealthier because
it's America. You can do that.
And around the end of the 1780s, his wife started to take ill or started to suffer from erratic and sometimes violent outbursts.
Oh dear.
It's from what little I could read, it sounded like she
was a normal person, but she was a woman, so she was a witch or some shit.
It's hard to tell whether or not it was like so. This is where the unsanctioned biography comes into play, because the chapters in that go from the death of his wife to mistress number 1.
All right, that's a chapter.
Yeah. And so the
Bible has the same outline too.
Yeah, basically. So it's unclear to me whether or not these violent outbursts were actually her, like, suffering from severe mental health crises, or if he had just always been promiscuous.
Okay.
And she started yelling at him about that.
I think, there you go.
And then, obviously, this is all conjecture. I don't know. But at the end of in 1790, I believe, he did have her, placed in Pennsylvania Hospital.
Oh, geez, a 1790 mental institution?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
They're not good now. What the hell?
Probably just like, well,
You thought One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was bad.
it was probably a treatment of like a mixture of laudanum, which is an alcoholic tincture of opium, and then like bloodletting. And
I would
see
take
what
the first
works.
one. I would take the first one. Maybe in the second one. Depends on how I'm feeling, you know.
Yeah. So after his wife is placed in
put away,
effectively put away in Pennsylvania hospital, he had a whole string of mistresses.
Okay.
Many of them coming from his own household staff. His household staff was also made up of a mix of enslaved and free black folks in Philly, servants, apprentices, and then the children of all of everyone. So it's unclear how many illegitimate children he had.
Okay.
And then how many illegitimate children he then employed in his own household staff.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I mean, I don't even want to touch on the concept of consent here.
Because
I don't think there's very much.
In as much as, like, consent existed in the 18th century at all, it definitely didn't exist in this situation.
This is horrible.
So, I will also say he did a fair amount of philanthropic work and personally aided the sick during the yellow fever epidemics of 1791 and 1811.
Okay. All right.
So
good, but it doesn't make culpa his ass out of it.
No. And then the other side of it is when the first Bank of the United States charter, it expired in 1811. Girard bought up most of the assets. So he bought a national bank.
That shouldn't be able to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
And including the building, which he then used to establish his own bank in 1812. Using this new bank, he basically bankrolled the War of 1812 on the American side. Like it's
this
insane.
Guy.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he basically just bankrolled the U.S. war effort for the War of 1812, which is insane that a single individual did that.
That's fine, Gabe.
Everything's
fine.
See, this is why we need a military-industrial complex, because otherwise we're reliant on just one dude.
I know, right?
So clearly, we need a very broad military-industrial complex so it doesn't get too centralized.
Thank you, Gabe. You made a perfect case for that.
Yeah. Okay, so he continued working as a banker, a bank owner, until 1830, when at the age of 81, he was crossing the street at 2nd and Market and got hit by a carriage.
Okay.
Reportedly, he actually still tried to work for the next 2 months while he was recovering from being run over by a carriage. So the whole thing with all of his mistresses and the fact that he never remarried meant that he had no legitimate children. So he had no heirs. So now we're at a situation where literally the wealthiest person in North America is dying and has no one to give his money to.
You know what, Gabe? I think he might be my uncle.
That's
my
a possibility.
great uncle, Gabe.
Yeah. I mean,
is that money still in escrow somewhere?
Yeah. And
I think
James is just another way to pronounce Girard.
It's like French, right?
Yeah.
I just found out I'm French.
Well, you're Polish and Irish, which averages out to French. And you're all still Catholic.
I don't know what that means, Gabe. I don't know how you did the math on that one, buddy.
Geography. It's kind of in the middle.
Sure, that's how it works.
Yeah. Anyway, so Stephen Girard dying, no heirs. He donates all of his wealth to various charitable institutions around Philly and New Orleans. And in Philly, he specifically creates a trust to leave funds for the creation of a boarding school for poor white male orphans.
Why did you even have to put that in?
Mm-hmm.
Buddy, come on.
This eventually became Girard College. The weird thing, though, is that you have Girard College, which is paid for and funded by a private trust, but administered by the Philadelphia Board of Directors of City Trusts, which is part of the Philadelphia Orphans Court and a branch of city government. So it's a weird public-private partnership thing that it's very Philly. And that there's just a weird pile of cash that gets managed by city government.
Very Philly covers a lot of ground, Gabe.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for being specific about that.
So I should also say it sits right off of Ridge Avenue, kind of running diagonally down to Poplar, and then extending all the way past 25th Street. Because it's perpendicular to Ridge Ave, but Ridge doesn't follow the grid, so it kind of fucks up this whole chunk of Philly.
Yeah, that's Ridge.
Yeah. So it was specifically because it was opened for white male orphans. It was...
I totally glossed over the male part.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't have, because of course, white male. Yeah. This is 1831 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, when it gets formally established. So it remained that way well into the 20th century. Now, when it was first built, it was basically just like up there around farmland, or surrounded by farmland.
Okay.
By the 1930s, it was in the middle of a majority black working class neighborhood.
Oh.
So
no.
You have this, and speaking of circling the wagons, the building or the campus is also surrounded by a 10-foot stone wall. So like you have this giant fortress that was providing free education to poor white children.
Yeah.
In the middle of a poor working class black neighborhood.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He didn't know that when he did it,
Gabe. Yeah.
Give the guy a break.
Yeah. So the optics are not great.
No.
Additionally, as we've discussed previously with the episode about Local 192 of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, in the 30s and 40s, there was a push for desegregation all around the Philly schools.
Okay.
And especially down like in Chester and some of the suburb counties. Now, by 1953, a guy named Raymond Pace Alexander was starting to challenge Girard's policies. He was a lawyer who had made a name for himself fighting for desegregation in the Chester School District back in the 30s. And I don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly certain that he actually worked with Local 192 in their fights for desegregation down in Chester.
Okay. We're all going to quote you on that, but...
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
It's already in the Wikipedia article, but our listeners are quick.
Oh, God. So he did like a lot of really good work fighting segregation down there, and was a very well-known progressive lawyer.
Okay.
And got himself elected to city council in 1951.
All right.
And he was the first black man to sit on city council in Philly history.
Oh, okay.
So like, dude had a hell of a resume.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Then in 1953, he challenged Girard's segregation policies, claiming that while it was privately operated, it was publicly managed by the director of city trusts, and thus should be subject to federal anti-discrimination laws.
Sure.
The city responded by basically saying that they were just following Girard's will, and thus his will has to trump anything else.
Yeah.
Because it was built into the rules for the trust.
That's such fucking bullshit.
Yeah. And so that was his first attempt, where he was basically just like, I'm going to test the waters.
So the words of a dead racist man trumps everything.
Yeah.
Is pretty much what they're saying.
A dead racist man from 122 years ago.
There you go.
So that was his first attempt. He was also serving as the legal advisor for Brown in Brown v. Board of Education.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
So
talk about a resume, like you said.
Yeah. So like he wasn't presenting any, or he wasn't presenting the case or anything, but he was helping on the back end write the case and research for it. And he accurately predicted how the Supreme Court would rule on that. So he had his plan, or he kind of knew what was going on behind the scenes when he started pushing for this stuff at Girard. So on March 23rd, 1954, the Board of City Trusts, who reviewed the cases for admission to the school, rejected the application of 6 black boys who wanted to attend. They were rejected explicitly on the basis of race. Because
I was going to jokingly say, why, Gabe? But I thought they would have come up with some bullshit.
Nope.
Good. Good. Fine.
Yeah.
I love that you could just turn away people just because of that reason.
Yeah. So in response to that,
oh God,
Alexander said that he would file suit against them on behalf of the 6 boys and try and fight them in the courts.
All right.
So May 17th, 1954, Justice Earl Warren delivered the decision on Brown v. Board, siding with Oliver Brown, and that established federal precedent for desegregation. 3 days after that, the Philadelphia City Council resolved that all boys should be admitted to Girard College.
Okay.
Yeah. So they stated that they wanted the Orphans Court to reinterpret Girard's will based on their decision.
Okay.
So then September 24th, 1954, Mayor Clark and City Council officially petitioned the Orphans Court to change its interpretation.
Okay.
Because they basically just ignored that first City Council request. So there was a fairly strong coalition within city government that was ready to go and start forcing Girard to open up its doors.
Nice.
Raymond Pace Alexander was also very tied in to the new kind of progressive reformist Democrats that had come into the city during the New Deal. And so there was a fairly strong New Deal coalition that had grown up and was trying to make some progressive change, but doing so very much through traditional means.
Yeah.
So going through the courts, making official petitions, all of that.
They're playing the long game.
Yeah. Then, so the case that they had built using the Supreme Court precedent from Brown v. Board was all built on the assumption that the directors of city trusts were acting as an arm of the city government and not a private entity.
Mm-hmm.
So this left them open to one argument that they weren't, or that the director of city trusts wasn't acting out the orders of city government, but rather merely executing Girard's will as written. So that basically, it all boiled down to whether or not Girard College was a public or private institution.
Okay.
Then July 1955, so this is now like a full year after all of this legal battle started, after a petition from the city government, Judge Robert V. Bulger of the Orphans Court upheld the decision to withhold admission to 2 black applicants.
Okay.
Effectively showing they wouldn't abide by the pressure from city government. Then Alexander appealed this in September of 1955. Eventually, it went up to Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Then November 12th, 1956.
Jeez.
Yeah,
These kids are just like, I just want an education and somewhere to live, you know?
I just want to go to school. 1956, PA Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Orphans Court, saying that segregation based on race was okay because some French guy said so in 1831.
Some rich French guy. Some rich white French guy.
That's very important. Then, April 1957.
Oh my God.
U.S. Supreme Court overruled the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision and decided that Girard College's racial ban did constitute racial discrimination by the state of Pennsylvania.
You're kidding me.
Thus violating the 14th Amendment.
You're kidding me, Gabe.
So, the federal Supreme Court basically was like, no, you're a public institution. You need to desegregate.
Yeah.
September.
And racism is racism.
Yeah, and racism is racism, surprisingly. September 1957. To avoid having to abide by that decision,
Jesus,
the Orphans Court dissolved the Board of City Trusts.
What?
Yep.
You could do that? Like,
yep.
Hey guys, we found a loophole. You don't exist anymore.
Yep. So they dissolved it as trustees of the Girard estate and instead appointed
oh God,
a 13-person private trustee.
Oh my God.
To oversee the board, to oversee the trust. Yeah. So that just removed city government from the equation altogether.
Entirely, yeah.
Like, they just privatized Girard College.
I mean, the balls.
Yeah.
You gotta admire the balls, Gabe.
So
God damn.
These
are the bad guys in the story too.
Yeah.
And I'm giving them kudos. This is so bad.
So that, of course, got support from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Then the U.S. Supreme Court said that the racial ban was okay because Girard College was now a fully private institution.
Well, everything's fine now. We fixed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So between 1953 and 1958, they actually went backwards in terms of desegregating Girard College. In steps a guy by the name of Cecil B. Moore.
Hey!
Okay. Yeah. He's probably going to get his own episode at some point.
He better.
Yeah. So we're jumping ahead to 1963.
Yeah.
He became the president of the Philadelphia branch of the NAACP. He had already made a pretty good name for himself as both a class and race organizer. Like he was very well known for going around working class Black communities to get all of his support. He was also really well known for being fairly radical and direct action oriented. As he said, he had spent 9 years as a Marine and said, "I was determined when I got back that what rights I didn't have I was going to take. After 9 years in the Marine Corps, I don't intend to take another order from any son of a bitch that walks."
I like it.
So
I like it.
Yeah, this is a very different attitude from we're going to file a petition in city council
Mhm.
to make you desegregate. So he made a name for himself by going into working class black communities and doing big get out the vote drives. He did a lot of just direct picketing whenever city government wasn't working.
Which is a regular occurrence.
Yeah, most of the time. He really pushed for desegregation in Philly's unions, especially the building trades, and then got elected to the Philadelphia NAACP almost solely on a wave of working class votes.
Okay.
So he also regularly attacked the black bourgeoisie, including people like Raymond Pace Alexander, as being
too by the book.
Too by the book, not radical enough.
Yeah.
So May 25th, 1964, Cecil B. Moore announced that he would start a campaign to desegregate Girard College.
Okay.
This time, he wouldn't go through the courts. He warned that if they didn't agree to allow black students, he would picket them.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So on May Day, 1965, there was a lone policeman who showed up at the main gate of Girard College at 6:30 a.m. By 6:45, a woman and 6 small children had shown up with picket signs.
Okay.
Throughout the day,
the cop's like, I can take him.
Yeah. Throughout the day, more and more pickets showed up. And from what I could tell, it was never more than like a little over 100 or 120.
Okay.
They were met by 800 police officers.
God damn.
Yep. Newspaper estimates ranged from 600 to 1,000. Temple's history of it puts it at 800. So
I would love it if the chain of events actually happened, but he called for the reinforcements right when the woman and her 6 kids came. So we need 800 right now.
I'm imagining that they had that one guy or the one cop just as a lookout, and there were 800 on the other side of the 10-foot wall. So when that woman shows up, it's just 800 stream out.
I think it was the Acorn cop. He's like, we need some backup. We need some backup. God bless that cop. You got a good meme out of him.
And
whack job.
The fact that 2 police officers fully emptied their firearms and didn't hit anything. It's good.
Good.
But also the sheer incompetence.
That's why, I do think these cops need these training centers, Gabe, because they obviously can't do their job correctly. They need as much training as possible.
Oh my God. Yeah, so those 800 cops formed a wall around the 10-foot high stone wall.
Okay.
In parts, they were 2 cops deep.
2 cops deep.
Making sure that no one climbed over the wall. So around 11 o'clock, Cecil B. Moore showed up, standing on the back of a sound truck. So I'm assuming just a truck with a bunch of speakers.
I like it.
Over the loudspeakers, he called out, "We don't need spectators, we need demonstrators."
Are we gay? Okay.
Yeah. And
damn,
so
I love this guy.
He started driving around the neighborhood around Girard to raise support and get more people picketing.
Okay.
Now, this same day, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was supposed to come to Philadelphia.
Really?
But Moore specifically said he doesn't want MLK to come out to this picket. And he actually, he targeted King hard in his criticism. saying that his nonviolent strategy was a technique, not a way of life.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So
Where's this guy's National Day?
Yeah. While all of this was going on, King was at a law day meeting at UPenn.
Okay.
So they were having a big seminar about law.
Oh, all right.
The first day of picketing went fairly peacefully. But they realized that they were going to have to really increase their numbers.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they basically they started going out into the community and started building up networks of working class people that could come out on like any random day.
Okay.
And so by the 10th of May, they had actually started to rattle some feathers, as best demonstrated by an incredibly racist rant from City Council President Paul Dortana,
Okay.
who called Moore a monster, and then went on a tirade about how he's stirring up the black people in the city.
Oh my God. Don't do that.
Yeah. And said that Moore is the reason that Philly needs 1,000 more cops.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Frank Rizzo's back.
Oh, he comes up later.
I'm sure he does. In every goddamn episode, Gabe.
So Dortana said that the crime rate would drop if they just kicked Cecil B. Moore out of the city.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What asshole words.
I should also say the Inquirer during all of this basically just played defense for the cops.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not surprised, Gabe.
Yeah, including highlighting a story about them buying shoes for a poor black kid from the local neighborhood who would run errands for them. And like, no discussion about why this kid had no shoes, why he wasn't in school, and why he needed to make side money running errands for cops, preventing the desegregation of a school that would allow him to get an education.
I kind of admire the fact that they were doing those feel-good stories even back then.
Oh yeah,
in the media.
No, they're almost all of their discussion of the picketing would be like, you'd have 2 or 3 paragraphs about the actual grievances and the pickets, and then you'd have a page or like a full page length column about like what sandwiches the cops were eating, how many times they were having coffee delivered, who they were talking to, like random feel-good stories about local neighborhood kids getting sandwiches and coffee from them. And it's just like, why are there 800 cops drinking coffee out front of Girard College? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
So they did actually do a very good job of building up that, getting back to Cecil B. Moore and the pickets. So they did a very good job of building up a like local working class support. Because one of the common tactics for the NAACP, which tended to be, especially at this time, very like middle class focused, is they would put all of their emphasis on big protests on the weekends. Okay. But that doesn't work for Girard College, because the way it was set up is I believe it was set up at this time, or like this at the time as well. You lived on campus Monday to Friday, but the campus was basically empty on the weekends.
Okay.
So in order to have an impact, you have to protest during the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But like middle class professionals
they don't see that.
Yeah. Well, it's also like they're not going to take time off of work to come do this.
Yeah, that's true. But
they realized, oh, this is a poor working class neighborhood with high unemployment. We can get a lot of people to come picket.
Mm-hmm.
Or people who were like working night shift, they came out during the day. If you worked on the weekends, you come out during the week. stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they created a like
revolving door.
Yeah, it was like a informal network of protesters.
Yeah.
Because Temple has some really good oral histories of people that were involved in the protests.
Oh, okay.
And so listening to a couple of those, it was very much just like, yeah, it was just kind of what you would do. You'd couple days a week, you and your friends would just go down and be on the picket line for 6 hours.
Yeah, it's my time clocking in.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, it was a fun neighborhood thing to do, and you got everybody together.
And as Philly tradition, pick up baseball game in the streets.
Probably. Although by the 1960s, especially these cops, seeing a bunch of poor black folks with baseball bats, that would not have ended well.
Gabe, come on, we can say even with gloves, it would not end well.
Oh God, no!
God forbid an acorn would drop somewhere.
I mean, even today, things have not improved greatly.
Yes, more cop training sites, more cop cities. Labor John is an official statement. They need training.
Specifically training in coding, because we're going to take the Appalachian method, and we need a just transition away from police work to IT work.
Oh, okay.
I'm proposing a just transition for police officers.
We'll talk to city council next week about this game. Like, what the fuck is a labor John?
May 9th, Moore declared that there would be
spoiler alert.
Yeah, jumped ahead. Sorry. May 7th, 400 marchers. They were also out there like singing and doing a good picket line.
Good picket line things.
Yeah. On Sunday, May 9th, he declared that there would be no cooling off and no concessions.
Okay.
Because the night before, Raymond Pace Alexander had visited the picket lines at 11 p.m. for some reason that late, and suggested that they should have a cooling off period so they could start negotiations with the college. And Moore just said, fuck that.
That was a direct quote.
Yeah, honestly, it probably was. But they also figured out that they had cost the city government $2 million.
Damn.
Just in police fees.
What?
Uh-huh.
All right.
They had
conservatives. You have to look at the police in a different way now. Look how much money we're spending on these goddamn people. Jesus Christ.
Because they were holding an almost around the clock picket.
Yeah.
So
they're getting some overtime in.
Yeah.
They didn't even need to have to write tickets that week.
Yeah. So they figured out that it wouldn't be long until the city had actually spent more on having police out front of the college than the college itself was worth.
Oh my God. Who said that? Moore said that?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So on the evening of the 9th, 125 pickets marched from their meeting place at the Corinthian Presbyterian Church. And this is just to give like a little overview of how the pickets went in the evenings. Then marched for 45 minutes around the school grounds. After that, about 50 stayed on until 10 p.m. There were 4 pickets left by midnight. And it doesn't say how long those lasted, but from the sounds of it, that they maintained a like 24/7 picket line, or as close to it as you can.
Hey.
Which, yeah.
What do you think? 2 people constitute a picket line?
Yeah, I mean...
You think 1?
1 person, yeah.
I think 1, Gabe.
If you're out there with a sign, it's a picket line.
God damn it. You're right, Gabe. The power of 1.
Mm-hmm. So
And bless those four for holding down the night shift.
Exactly. Moore also continued his attacks on Raymond Pace Alexander, saying that he had his chance to solve this problem back in 1958, but lost and took a judgeship instead. Because I also forgot to mention Raymond Pace Alexander was a city judge at this point. Yeah.
More. You sly dog, you.
Mm-hmm. So Moore, obviously.
Can we just put these guys in a celebrity death match together?
Honestly, that would be great to watch. I mean, Moore would win. 9 years as a Marine Corps and serving in the Marine Corps and serving in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And
the other guy's a judge now. So I mean.
Moore's seen some shit. But he did also face a lot of threats throughout all of this because he was pissing a lot of people off.
Of course.
So not just from the president and city council, but down in Leicester, Pennsylvania, Lester, which is down in Delaware County, someone erected a 15-foot high cross, lit it on fire.
No.
Right near the industrial highway, and around it were signs declaring that Moore, the Girard College picketers, and basically all of their supporters within the city were going to be targeted.
Well, that's Delco for you, Gabe.
Yep. Yeah, it hasn't changed. So picketing continued through the spring and into the summer of 65. By June 24th, the city solicitor, Edward G. Bauer Jr., called on the state to initiate a joint court action to force desegregation of the college. July 12th, Governor Scranton met with Mayor James Tate and John A. Diemond, one of the trustees for the college.
Diemond?
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 Diemand.
Okay.
Diemond?
I don't know.
He's a trustee for the college, so I'm going with Diemond.
Nice.
So they had a meeting at the state office building.
Okay.
But Moore wasn't invited, nor was anyone from the NAACP.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So the people like invested in desegregation weren't invited in this discussion of desegregation.
Did they invite anybody, Gabe? Were they just talking to themselves?
It was the governor, the mayor, and then one of the trustees from the college. So Moore was understandably kind of pissed off by that.
Which you shouldn't do.
Yeah. You should not piss off Cecil B. Moore. And so he organized a protest outside of the state office building.
Okay.
Demonstration very quickly turned violent.
Oh, no.
Tensions were very high, and some cops were injured, including a deputy police commissioner named Frank Rizzo.
No.
Yep.
This is the origin story?
I don't know if this is the origin story of Frank Rizzo. This is a point in his career. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know anything about Frank Rizzo's attempts or how he became police commissioner, but I would not be surprised if he very heavily played up the fact that he got wounded while trying to beat the crap out of Cecil B. Moore. So
that's probably how he got the job.
Yeah.
So
Rizzo was injured. 5 protesters were wounded. Okay. 5 other protesters were arrested. Then after the fight was broken up, Moore declared that he would go back to the wall, meaning the 10-foot wall around Girard College.
Okay.
And picketing at the college itself continued.
We don't need no education. Actually, we do. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Can you please let us in? Jesus
Yes.
Christ, you guys are racist because some old guy.
We would like some education. Anyway, so
Sorry, Gabe. It's my job of the podcast.
Yeah. So they were getting regularly getting hundreds of people out to the picket lines now.
Okay.
And there was no sign that momentum was going to break down.
Good.
And actually going back to the those oral histories, they also talk about how local it was, that you would literally just walk down the street to the picket line.
Really?
It was people from a couple blocks around the college.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's also they were the ones most affected by it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, true.
Yeah. Moore really showed his skill as a working class organizer in this, because he knew how to get that neighborhood activated for it. And at this point, or by August, the protests had started to actually garner enough national attention that MLK returned to Philly.
Hey.
And gave a speech to rally the demonstrators. I didn't find any info about Moore's feelings on that, but it was probably, he recognized it as a tactical alliance to have.
I guess so.
Because it showed that they were making enough progress that even the more mainstream reformist side was willing to listen to their demands.
Yeah. So all right, we'll take it,
Yeah.
Get the word out to a little more people.
Yeah. So there were other, and it wasn't just MLK, it was folks from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, CORE, which is the Committee of Reconciliation, I believe, and then former NAACP President Roy Wilkins.
Okay.
Were also showing up to the picket lines regularly, making speeches, and just lending a broader voice to it. Because that also puts more pressure on the college as well, because they can't pass it off as just oh, well, this is just this little group of black radicals organized by Moore.
Yeah.
Admittedly, in 65, even MLK was not well liked by the general public in the US, and was generally viewed as somewhere between Stalin and the devil, depending on who you're talking to. Yeah, because
and Demon, the guy from City Council, where
exactly.
the fuck he was
from. But having this broader coalition did let them apply some more pressure.
Yeah.
And there were some stirrings on the legal side as well. So even while all of this was going on, other people were still pursuing a legal solution. Yeah. So September 23rd, 1965, Governor Scranton appointed William T. Coleman Jr. and Charles J. Biddle as special counsel for the Commonwealth to pursue the case of forcing Girard College to desegregate. Then October 25th, Raymond Pace Alexander urged Moore to suspend picketing. Moore refused at this point, knowing that public pressure was the only thing that actually kept any of this moving forward.
Yeah, the ball was kind of in their court, so.
Yeah. And I would argue that the governor only appointed that as a way to end the picketing.
Yeah.
Because
It doesn't look good on them.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. And so Moore knew that like the college wasn't just gonna desegregate because there were a bunch of pickets outside, but the picketing was a way to force everyone else to actually get off their asses and start doing something again. So December 16th, 1965, a suit challenging Girard College's admission policy is filed in U.S. District Court by city and state officials in conjunction with the mothers of 7 black boys who had sought to attend the college.
Okay.
The courts finally took on the case.
Hey!
Moore suspended picketing at the college.
All right.
And allowed the legal process to carry out.
All right. I'm kind of surprised by that.
Yeah. Well, he probably got a lot of pressure from inside the NAACP, and also got pressure from Raymond Pace Alexander. Over the next 2 years, after multiple appeals, Third Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously upheld a previous ruling from Judge Joseph S. Lord that under Pennsylvania state law, or Pennsylvania Commonwealth law, black students cannot be excluded from Girard College on the basis of race.
Hey, okay.
Yes. This was immediately appealed by the Girard Trust.
Son of a bitch!
But the Supreme Court refused to hear the case.
All right.
So
okay,
that de facto meant that the state Supreme Court ruling was upheld, or the federal district court ruling was upheld. And on May 23rd, 1968, the Girard College Board of Trustees votes to admit black students.
Hey, I'm sorry, Gabe, can you give that date again?
May 23rd, 1968.
68.
14 years. 15 years after the first attempt, 14 years after the first legal attempt.
God damn.
Yep.
A long time coming, but it happened.
Yeah. On June 24th, 1968, 600 people attended a victory rally at Girard College to celebrate its final desegregation.
Yay, okay.
Yeah.
Final desegregation.
So that today, Girard College is still operational. It provides free education to children from low-income families and or children from single-parent households and low-income families.
Mm-hmm.
And runs on a boarding school program, so you're there Sunday night or Sunday evening to Friday evening. And which is both, I mean, it's difficult because you're separated from family. But also, if you're a single parent with kids, not having to worry about childcare during the week is a good thing. I should also say, the college now hosts the largest MLK Day of Service in the United States.
Oh my God. That was a good story, Gabe.
Yeah. I've been wanting to do that one for a while, but finally got around to it. And it was a lot crazier than I thought. Yeah. I knew about the protests. I didn't know about the whole legal thing before it. And how much infighting there was.
Yeah.
With Cecil B. Moore and then everyone else.
All right, Gabe. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. And I don't have anything else, so.
We might need some education. Tear down the wall. Tear down the wall.
I mean, honestly, if they tore down the wall to Girard College, it would have solved a lot of problems.